All right, I'm your host, Amon Green. Welcome to the On My Block podcast, along with my co-host, Mike Wallman. Mike, how you doing?
Hey, G, I'm doing good, bud. I know it was a loss, but
Yeah,
some positives from the game. We'll take it.
definitely some good things to take away from the game there
I don't
last
know if
night.
that's the right mentality. I shouldn't have said it that way. Oh, yeah, we'll
No,
take it. It's a kind of a loser's mentality. But, yeah, anyways, there was some good stuff.
yeah, there was some good stuff. It was a good football game, and I'll say something going into it. I just knew that I knew Philly's line because you mentioned it several times. You know how good they are, especially with the leader of Kelsey in there at center. I was like, it's gonna be tough for the all D line to get in the backfield to really do anything to Jalen, and Jalen's a running quarterback anyway, as we found out, and he was one of the top rushers for Philly squad last night. So that was my mindset going to game. I say if it's gonna be hard to establish anything with the against their offensive line from a defensive standpoint, and to have a lot of people that had been showing up most of the season for the Packers D line, you didn't really hear a lot from them. You heard some of the new names, and you saw effort from players that we'll talk about here in a little bit. But overall, the names that normally were there, you didn't see them there, and you saw guys getting on both sides of the ball getting planted into the grass out there in Lincoln Financial in terms of the run game. I saw one of the I think I saw JRJ plant one of their D tackles in a big pancake later in the game. So
Yeah, it might have been. There's a couple. What we have on tape, Elgin Jenkins absolutely destroyed this guy.
that's what it was. It was
Yeah,
Elgin.
and
It was
then
Elgin.
they gave him a really bad holding call, but
Yeah, I saw
that's
that
what
play.
happens.
I was man. So I'll take the read here. So basketball is back with our sponsors with Bet Online, and Bet Online remains our number one source of all our sports betting needs this season. So you'll always find the latest odds, team matchups information, player news, and game trends at Bet Online. As your continued source for your all sports wagering information, Bet Online features live betting, free contests, and giveaways all season long. Always the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports and events, whenever it's NFL, NBA, NHL, MMA, tennis, boxing, esports, or even golf. So head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BLEAV, to receive your rewards. BetOnline, where the game starts, Mike. So this game started and ended with the run game for Philly.
Yeah, it sure did. 363 yards. 363 yards on. I mean,
that was
in my wildest dreams,
right.
in my wildest dreams, we would roll up 363 yards on the ground. You know what I mean? And Jalen Hurts, you think about this. I mean, honestly, Jalen Hurts runs for 157 yards. I think he had 125 in like the first quarter.
Yeah.
But he runs for 157 yards. He's running for a 9-yard average.
Mm-hmm.
And he breaks you. I mean, think about the quarterbacks. Randall Cunningham, Mike Vick, right, that have been for Philly. And Jalen Hurts, basically, it took one half of football for him to break the rushing record for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I don't know, I put this to you. You and I are run game guys.
Yeah.
How do the Green Bay Packers expect to win, or how would you even put together something where you would say, I'll tell you what we're going to do, guys. We're going to give up 360 yards on the ground, but we have a plan to win this game. Like, how does that make sense at all?
I mean, you had to play clean football. That means no turnovers. And we had that. Aaron threw 2 interceptions, and there was other parts of the game. Obviously, there were mistakes made. And so I say start with that. If you have no turnover football, you have a chance. But you're fighting fire with fire because the run game drains the clock. Every play goes from a quick hitting fast pass play to, anywhere from 15 to 20 seconds to a run play being 30 to 45 seconds before the next play starts. And you can do that because guys get off the ground, the linemen's helping running backs. And, there's a big run done or, short yardage run, what have you. And the quarterback and the offensive line and the offensive coordinator, they're well aware of what they're doing with the run game. And that's what Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts and that offensive line for Philly, that's what they put in line. They have that right now for this year for Philly, is that they have a run mentality. That's their identity, and it showed on Sunday Night Football.
They ran the ball 49 times.
That's beautiful. I love.
I mean, that's like I went to the Naval Academy. We ran triple option, so I've ran the ball 49 times before, but I don't think I've done it since then.
Yeah.
And let's come like total plays are almost not quite, but almost 2-1. And so you have to go, you know what? Like offensively, yeah, it wasn't pretty. I think their defensive line, what was like, one of the big things you talked about beforehand was their defensive line. They had 3 sacks. Maybe more important, they had 4 tackles for loss.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really hard when you get, 40 plays of offense. The other team gets almost 80. That time of that possession. What happens is AG is like you go from here's how we're going to control the game. Like every time we get in there on Wednesday. You get in there, the head coach gets up there and he says, okay, here's our big picture game plan. Here's what we're going to do: offense, defense, special teams. You're going to break out into your rooms. And one of the things he's going to say with a team like Philly, who's got this great run game, hey, we have to stop Jalen Hurts. This guy's playing at MVP level. They're going to do a lot of this empty backfield where they're going to run him. They're going to use Jason Kelce as kind of the lead blocker, or they're going to put back in the backfield and use a single back as the lead blocker. But bottom line, in the last 2 games at least, he's been the leading rusher on the team. So we have to find a way to make them, to make him pay when he's running the football. And so they start making some business decisions. And we are going to have to give something up. We have all these great people in the secondary. We're going to have to make him beat us. Unfortunately, we're going to have to make him beat us with his arm and not his legs, because he's going to beat us with his legs. And Jalen Hurts proved to me, at least last night, like he can beat you with both. That pick that he, or that play that he had to Quez Watkins,
that back shoulder throw
on Rasul, like, and then Rasul got beat by AJ Brown, and you're just going like, well, man, of course you're going to get like this guy. This quarterback's no joke. He's the real deal.
Yeah, he showed up, and he showed that, okay, not only my legs, like you mentioned, but my arm is a problem for defenders as well, and defensive coordinators is what you got to prepare for. And for a DC of any team coming up and down this road against them, for Philly, it's you gotta think about that. You gotta make sure you prepare, to stop him with the run, which he can do on his own, and then also with throwing the ball to the receivers that can get open and can run after the catch. So it's going to be interesting for Philly the rest of the season for them.
Well, Aaron Rodgers is for most people would be the big story. Obviously, he didn't play in the fourth quarter.
The Nielman and oblique strain or muscle or ribs.
It was a muscle and not ribs. That's good news.
Yeah, it said oblique right away, so we'll see what it comes out today.
But, from a rotational standpoint, it's almost impossible to throw the football. He's got that ribs thing going. You see the. We'll get into those things on tape, but he had some great passes. I think that first pick, you just kind of go, man, was that the thumb or is that something else?
Yeah.
But Jordan Love comes in, and now we'll start up all the hoopla because you're a 4-8 football team, and Jordan Love throws a 74-yard touchdown, whatever it is, to Christian Watson. Great play, under center play action, quick turn. Yep. Hits him right in stride. Great play, and the guy just turns the Jets on. But it's like. We should just squash this right now, at least in my mind. Like, if Aaron Rodgers can play, he still gives you the best chance to win.
100%.
You're still not mathematically eliminated. It was good to see Jordan Love look good for a quarter. I think he went. What did he go 6 for 9 for 113 and a touchdown.
Yep.
Great job. I'm sure his QBR is high. Looked good in the pocket. Could move around a little bit. So, I guess in one sense, it's. I think it's always hard too when you go into a game like that. Like Philly has one problem. You say it's their defense, which sounds crazy, but because their defensive line is so good. But you would say, their safety.
They still give up some stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, they give up a ton of yards on the ground, which they didn't give that up. I mean, they gave up a 5-yard carry, 106 yards or something on the ground to us, but they're averaging over 120 yards on the ground that they give up.
Yeah, the safety, C.J. Gardner went out on a big hit, and that was a big deal because he's a leader in that backfield, smart safety, sports or football IQ high. So that hit took him out, and that made some differences in the backfield, defensive backfield for Philly.
In our defensive backfield, I see you have some notes up here. Like tell us what stood out to you. I think defensively.
Yeah, Cassian, and I mentioned his name earlier. Kingsley Enagbare, he stood out just from the effort standpoint. He showed, Everybody knows Rashard's gone, but you know what? And he's been doing this when he has rotated in with Rashard Gary off the bench. And so he's showing how he can press and extend against the tackle, and then get off of him too and get to the backfield. That's where he pushed Jalen out, but DBs are in coverage, so Jalen was able to take advantage of the coverages. Rudy Ford, again, came in, was still hitting, regardless what the game looked like. You know, when it got they were up by 14, but then we scored again and got it to 7 again. And then the kickoff return. I like
Nixon, man.
Yeah, Jeez. Nixon. I mean, I'm like, where's he been? Well, I'm like, I know he's been on the roster, but why
can you imagine?
Like,
so those two. Let's talk about those two guys.
Right.
Rudy Ford, Enagbare is a pleasant surprise because he's a draft pick that you just go, he's going to be a project. He's doing well. I was actually more 100%. Impressed with him in the run game than in the pass game. I thought in the run game he did a great job of pressing tight ends into the backfield. But either way,
right.
Rudy Ford, the fact that Rudy Ford hasn't been starting at safety this entire season is right. And listen, you don't call for people's jobs, but you have to question what's going on when Rudy Ford has not been starting for Darnell Savage got hurt the third play of the game on a scramble.
Yeah. And he
hurt his foot.
I was like, he was on the field. I didn't be honest. I didn't even know he was on the field.
Well, so because he's playing the nickel, right?
Right. Okay.
What was he doing when he got hurt, AG? He was missing a tackle.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and you hate to see it, but it's like bad form. Don't break down. Every single thing you've talked about all year. The Rudy Ford guy causes a fumble, hits like a hammer. He's in on every play.
Yeah.
And then Nixon.
Yeah, Nixon.
I mean, good Lord.
He's hitting the gap.
He averaged 34 yards of return. What do we do? I mean, he was basically half our offense.
Basically.
I mean, if we don't have him on those returns, because he got what 2 or 3 of them back to the 50.
Yeah, he got 50. Yeah, one was 50. 53 was the longest. So yeah, things like that come up.
But if he's not there, we don't have. I mean, you think about we only had 40 something plays. Like we have even less than that. So, I mean, those two guys right there, it just, again, it kind of goes to, you always start thinking at this point in the season, like, what's going on in everyone's mind if those two guys haven't been playing? Are we playing guys because of contracts? Are we playing guys because of draft status?
Right.
Because those two guys should be, when you see Nixon run, I don't know. I don't know anything about returning. When you see him run, you're like, he should be on the field all the time.
Yeah, when I saw
what the hell are we talking about?
On that first kickoff return they received, I'm like, where's he been? I'm like, he's hitting the gap, he's reading his blocks, he's picking yards, he's getting hit and then making yards after contact.
He's super confident too. He's
very confident. Very confident. And you see that in his gameplay. I was like, okay. I said, this doesn't make sense, but okay. I don't like that.
I'll tell you what. Quay Walker had 11 tackles last night. He had the fumble recovery.
Yeah, he played pretty good.
Good. So I got some tape.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about this all year. I think it's unfortunate that Devondre Campbell's not healthy because Quay's young.
Yes.
So Quay had statistically had a good game last night.
Mm-hmm.
But he also is responsible for an incredible amount of those rushing yards. And for two reasons. Well, for one reason, he's young.
Yeah,
he doesn't know how to attack a gap, and he's still not he's not naturally or instinctively good at diagnosing these plays and taking on those blockers, and it is costing us. We've talked about it every week because I'm a huge Isaiah McDuffie fan, Chris Barnes fan. We both are huge Chris Barnes fans.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference when you see one of them attack versus what Quay's doing, again, he makes a ton of tackles, but they're all 8 yards plus. And last night was one of those games where you're like, okay, we have to make a decision, and I guess they've already made it. You're gonna keep him in and have him learn on the job.
Right.
But let's you want to go to this tape because let's just go to the tape because it's it's remarkable.
And he gets at what it is. He's a little excited, and so his speed to the ball and his coming to balance that's what's for me. I see all the time. He's always not in position to make a tackle similar to Savage. You have to have
body
that
position. You mean like body position, feet, hips, shoulders?
Exactly. Everything is ready to tackle where you give yourself an advantage when you can come the balance and you square it off. And when you're not, when your feet are over your toes, your head's over your toes, you're going to fall for anything. Any juke move, you could sneeze and a guy could run past you. He could juke you. So here we go.
So I think this is the third play of the game when everybody gets hurt or when Savage gets hurt.
Okay.
We're going to go shotgun. And it looks initially like he's either man on the back, and then he looks like he might be spying because nobody's on this back if he's not.
He's spying on this. I remember the play. This play right here. He's spying.
So he decides to come up.
Right now, way too fast.
just a very, very poor job of tackling. There's our first safety, Amos. There's our second, or there's our nickel corner now, Savage. This is a quarterback, man. It's a 4.5 yard, 40-yard dash quarterback. Yeah. Great runner, 600-pound squat. But I mean, come on.
It's come to balance.
This is your point right here, right?
Yeah.
He jumps into position, so he's not breaking down. When we talk about breaking down, you're talking about patting your feet into the ground, getting your shoulders over your knees, over your toes. Imagine like I always tell athletes this. So for anybody out there, if you ever watch a tennis player before they're about to receive a ball, you ever watch a basketball player on defense, you ever watch a linebacker in their stance, everyone's in what we just call an athletic position.
Yep.
And if you are not in that position when you're trying to do athletic stuff, man, you got some problems. Yep. That's one of the big reasons why offensive linemen in this league are so bad, because these coaches teach them to be in this non-athletic position all the time. They try to move around like a bunch of fools.
Yeah.
But anyways, we see Hurts just looking like
a running back and looking like a pure athlete right there.
So there's a 20-yard play. Now here's another one.
So I would say before that last play, I think Quay is the spy. He's the spy on Hurts.
So I know he's the spy on this one. The last one was just the only question I had was they went man coverage and there's nobody on the running back. So you start going, well, wait a second. This it doesn't make it. Somebody's wrong, right? But anyways, he's definitely spying here. Okay. Yep. And now he just kind of chooses. When you play spy, again, this is like contextually, like you just have to have some experience here. But we'll watch Quay's at the top he's on the far right of the screen, and he just makes a bad decision.
Mm-hmm.
He goes right, Hurts goes left, and you're out the gate. And this is a 30-some yard run. These are big plays in the game. I'm surprised Hurts didn't try to truck Rasul Douglas right there.
No, I thought he was going to drop his shoulder, but he was a little smarter.
So this again, we diagnosed the play, and I'm back this one up a little bit.
The option holds Kingsley here on the edge. Option holds him.
So Kingsley has the running back, or excuse me, the quarterback.
Yep.
Okay. So right now, if you don't attack this offensive lineman, in other words, if I don't go to the offensive lineman, attack him, plant my hands in his chest and shed this block, then I'm going to allow him. All these guys are really good. All these offensive linemen on the Eagles are really good.
They are.
Allow them to rise and grab me. And now I'm going to be going the wrong direction. I'm going to try to make these arm tackles, right? And I can't make it, and I give up touchdowns. Now, I'm not saying you're going to make that play 100 out of 100 times, but I'm saying if you go stick the guy in the chest, it's a completely different game. Now, here's Chris Barnes, and this is just to my point. I'll be honest with you, AG, like you don't have to cherry pick a lot of stuff in this run tape. Like this, all this kind of shows up over the course of the last couple of weeks.
Gotcha.
So Chris Barnes, just when it's go time, he goes.
Boom.
Right? There's all of a sudden the hole that was there is gone. Not there anymore.
It's full.
Yep. So when we talk about you have gap responsibility, a gap and a half. Okay. When it's go time, you hit the hole. You try to meet the running back in the hole. This is the thing we talked about Isaiah McDuffie last week. Chris Barnes is doing a great job of it this week. He doesn't even make the play, but he makes the play.
Yeah, he slows him. He makes the running back make extra moves. He actually shoots. He takes a shot too. Because if you saw Chris, he was kind of out of position, but he pretty much said, you know what, I'm gonna commit. But he's already 2 yards in the backfield to that commit there, and then Preston Smith and the rest of the crew could come help him finish the tackle off.
And AG, just as a former running back, tell everybody, like, so you're going and you're going across and you have to hit that. Let's say you're entering into the C gap, and all of a sudden that guy shows up and you got to bounce it again, and you have the defensive end stretching it out there. Like, at this point, where does your mind go? You're just trying to.
I'm just trying to get yardage.
I'm just trying to extend it as far as you can and then try to dart forward, right?
Yep. I'm not going to continue to bounce it. They got leverage on me. You know what? Get what I can. Get a yard, get whatever, but at least get back to the line of scrimmage. Don't lose any yards. Don't dance. Just get what you can.
So here's Barnes. Here's Barnes again. Now, Barnes just has a different method of taking on blockers. So he gets underneath the right guard's pads, hits him. So you see the right guard's essentially like going to fall over the top of him because he's hit low. He's hitting low to high, playing with leverage. Goes right in on the tackle here. And instead of an 8-yard gain, this is a 2-yard gain.
Yeah.
And again, it has nothing to do with anything else except for the way that this guy decides he wants to invite contact into his game. And it's not a dig on one guy. It's an appreciation of the other, but it's also understanding that we are giving up an insane amount of yardage on the ground. And we've been talking about it all year. This is a big reason why. And it doesn't seem like they're addressing it in the Packers meeting rooms right now.
Right. You got to get Quay up to par with, his technique, how he goes into tackles, how he goes into shedding blocks and blockers, coming in and that, and then put it up as a priority on his list. Because as a linebacker, you can't be a linebacker if you can't do those simple things. And those are simple things. Those are basics. Those are things when I coached linebackers in high school, the first thing I taught my linebackers beyond tackling is shedding the block. I'm like, because if you're blocked, you're not a linebacker. You're just somebody out there waiting to get hit again. So get the guy off of you and then go and make the proper tackle, basically.
So this another example with Quay. So we see that Lane Johnson, they ran a ton of tackle pulls, and they either do a tackle pull where he traps the defensive tackle, or they do a tackle pull where he actually pulls up for the linebacker. Now, in this situation right here, Quay, there's about 4 yards between Lane Johnson and Quay.
Yep.
You have to be desperate to close that gap. In other words, 100%. the further back, for people watching at home, the further back that this confrontation happens, the closer to the 50-yard line that this confrontation happens, the more free yardage the running back's going to get. You see this, you have to attack it. But he stays there and he holds, and then all of a sudden the guy's out the gate. And these are big plays. And what happens is, you don't AG, just like you said on the last play with Chris Barnes, it's a question of Chris Barnes might not make the play, but he made the play, right? He's making the play because he's making you stop from gaining immediate yardage. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. And it's what you want to do as a defender. It's kind of what I mentioned with Derrick Henry, where you want penetration from your defensive tackle to make him stop his momentum because he's a big back. So you do the same thing with any back, no matter the size. If you stop their momentum going forward, you're part of the tackle because you start everybody coming in. And if you're playing solid defense, that means, as what you heard coaches say, get hats to the ball. One guy slows one guy. We want 5 hats there. That's the mentality of a good defense right there.
I think I got 1 or 2 more of these. So you see Isaiah McDuffie right here is going for it, okay? And what happens on this play is when one fills, the other one's got to spill, right? Every high school football player has ever heard the term fill and spill, right?
Exactly.
So he fills, Quay.
Where you at?
There's no surprise here, man. You got to go, dude. You have to go. And because you hesitate and your body position is wrong, this guy's out the gate again. And look, Quay is working his butt off. And I actually have grown to appreciate his athleticism and how hard he plays more during the season. But this stuff, I mean, this is like there's 200 yards on this teach tape right here.
Right. And that's something from his ability where the coaches can help out. They could coach him up or even teammates, but it's more of a coaching thing. You can't throw that on the teammates. It's more of a coaching thing and say, hey, this is what I see on film. This is where we need you to sit at, read the play, and then react a lot faster on some of these plays right
here. Okay. So Quay picks up the fumble, and we just got to talk about this guy, man.
He's special right now.
This guy, I mean, this guy does more. He does more celebrating.
I was like, what is going on?
He does more of this stuff. He does more, and this is the most egregious.
I said, go get a block. I'm like yelling, go get a block.
What exactly are you telling him right here? Are you doing this? Are you saying hi? Like what? Because I think Jalen Hurts ends up making this play, right?
Yes. I was like, go get Jalen. Go get a block, man.
Oh, my goodness. Oh.
I'm like, get a block. Get a block. That's the first thing pops in my head. What are you doing? Get a block.
Oh. Well, I'll tell you what. There was a lot of good stuff on that tape, but to your point, you don't hear Jarran Reed had a good game. I think because he got some when they were one-on-one. But this is the kind of thing that we talk about. Like as an offensive lineman, let's take away all the scheme philosophies and all of that stuff. What is like fundamentally, what is how do you defeat an offensive line? Well, you get as many one-on-one blocks as possible.
Yeah,
it's really, and I can't make it any easier. There's opportunities in every scheme. There's a double team that you're going to really, ideally your first read is going to be a double team or your second read is going to be a double team. Mm-hmm. And if I can take away those double teams by reading it and attacking that player, then I am freeing up the other person for a one-on-one. Now, you can do that at the defensive end, defensive tackle spot by playing into one guy versus the other, or we can do it at the linebacker position by running up and filling your gap immediately and creating and just taking away the hole for the running back to run through. But when we don't do that, I think we just saw a ton of examples of not doing that. It is really problematic when you're playing against a team that is as dangerous as the Philadelphia Eagles, from their quarterback to the running back, their offensive line, or everybody that they have. It's just impossible to think that you're going to stop them without being just physically dominant and aggressive, but winning your 1v1s and taking away as many doubles as you can.
Yeah, exactly. Because when you don't have that, it's just when you have the errors that are out there, the MAs, the deficiency in experience of some of the players on the defensive side of the ball that the Packers do, that is going to be a problem week over week for you. And they got a lot of they got 2 or 3 games coming up that's going to be just like that, dealing with players, dealing with other teams coming up on the list here.
I don't know if we're not going to play another team like the Eagles again this year, but is it? I guess, and the decision's been made. But what do you think? In this situation, you're a member of the team now. Let's say not put on your coach hat, put on your player hat. Like, is there a point where you're like, why isn't Chris Barnes just in there all the time, or in there in all these running situations? Or we talked about it last week. Like, Isaiah McDuffie and Chris Barnes need to be in the game.
Period. Yeah.
Period. When we're playing a team like the Eagles, because the fear is not that Jalen Hurts is going to throw for 400 yards across the middle, especially when Goddard's hurt. The fear is that they're going to run for 363 yards.
Yeah, they're going to run for that much. And that's
and so this is kind of where, this is kind of where we went last week, and it turned out to be pretty accurate.
Yeah, it's just you gotta prepare for what's in front of you in terms of the teams, and knowing you got, like I mentioned, you got some of the deficiencies of players and experience, and what they can and can't do comes up all the time. So it's just one of them things. Like, man, it's a head scratcher. It's more of a head scratcher than anything, because like for Chris and them, like it should be a no brainer. The way from what we've seen on film, and they're seeing more film than we are. We're only cutting up 1 or 2 clips and here once a week. They're looking at it every day. And if you don't see the difference, even though Quay makes plays, but like you said, just giving up extra yardage from that tape alone, and there's more tape out there, obviously, that should be something like a pop in your head as a coach. Oh, okay, we need to get 5-1 in there. We need to get 57 in there.
Yeah, or coach, or like identify them. I think the thing for me is like, it doesn't feel like the problem's been identified and rectified in any way.
Addressed, right? And addressed.
And that's the biggest thing, is like, if we saw him coming up and that, to be fair, like it's not like he can't shed a block, like he's shed a block before. Mm-hmm. But if we don't see him hitting the hole, if we don't see him meeting the running back in the hole more often, like I don't know what his tackles for loss are this year, or his tackles at the line of scrimmage, but I can't imagine there's that many given the amount of tackles that he has.
Right.
And so if those things are being addressed, you got to go Joe Barry, linebacker, everybody. Man, why does this continue to happen? I don't know.
You have to address it, but yeah, like I say, that's a coaching thing. Has to be addressed.
So we score 33 on offense. Early on, it's the Aaron Jones show.
Yep, Aaron and AJ.
And AJ looked so good yesterday, dude.
He's got a thigh bruise he's going to have to deal with. He got thumped in that leg.
Yeah, but he
ran hard.
He ran so hard last night. So those guys, I combine. I'm going to start. Because they don't get enough carries, I'm going to start combining their carries and their catches for touches. So
right.
Aaron had 15 for 99 touches, and AJ had 11 touches for 88 yards. So, like, not great numbers, but you combine those two, you're at 188 yards for your running backs. It's pretty good. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's a little harder when you spread them out, but they did average 5.0 yards a carry, 5.0 yards a carry. It's what we talked about. It's just really tough when, first of all, you have an early turnover. So you're down 14. Mm-hmm. The other team can just run the clock. It's like 3rd and 10, doesn't matter. We drop back, let our guy run, and he can run forever. And the biggest, I think, the biggest thing was we played complimentary football in a sense, but it wasn't like the complimentary football you thought it was going to be. It was the special teams in the offense,
right?
Not the defense in the offense, right?
Yeah. It was interesting. What I was gonna say is, like with Aaron and AJ, like I said, AJ ran hard.
Yeah,
he got tagged in that thigh. And then another part of Aaron Jones' game is that running the routes, catching the ball, adjustment, the touchdown that he had. He's special, and he's basically finding every which way he could do to help this team win. And he's not doing what Zaire is doing. He's not going out there to celebrate everything. And it's like, what are you doing? Just play ball. So him, AJ, those are the two guys that are kind of said, they probably had a conversation between themselves. Hey man, we're going to have to just ride this thing out. We're going to, play hard. If the plays are in front of us, just take them for what they are. Because they know what things are going on with Aaron and his health now, especially now. And, he has a thumb and the oblique. So we'll see where that goes come the next week. But I think what I see among players as a pro, I see them, they said, you know what, we're just going to do what we do. We're going to run the ball. We're going to catch the ball. And when we get opportunities, make plays. And they're doing that.
Well, like we talked about before, we had the 2 turnovers. We'll show them right now. Offensive line. I mean, listen, this is a tough ask.
Yeah.
The guys that you expect to play well, play well. I know EJ had a couple of penalties. There was a communication error in there. There's little things here and there, and then it adds up to 3 sacks. It adds up to honestly, the tackles for loss, 4 tackles for loss is a lot, dude.
Yeah.
Like for those watching at home, 3 sacks. It was an awful day. 4 tackles for loss is actually like the bigger problem.
Yes.
Because usually that means that's your run game. And when you have a tackle for loss in the run game, that means they're not going to call that play anymore. And that means everyone's pissed off. So,
yeah.
There was a lot of good stuff on this tape, though. But let's see if I can get this right here. Okay, so this is first things first. Let me see if I can get this back to the snap. So we have a miscommunication here between Myers and EJ. And I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I trust that EJ is going the right way more than I trust that Myers is. If you kind of look at this, like maybe the center usually makes the right call here, but it doesn't, in my mind, just based on history here, I think, I just don't think Elgin Jenkins is going the wrong way. I don't know, but it ends up happening. Aaron gets out of the way. And then this is probably the worst throw of the night. It's kind of it's a floater, hits off the helmet of Slay, and they make that play. It's unfortunate because now you're down 14. Everything looks and feels a little bit different. Are you going to are you going to have to change your game plan now when you're down 14 points that early in the game? That's always the question the coaching staff has to ask, right?
Yep.
I think fortunately for us, they didn't have to because we had such a good return game.
Mm-hmm.
But so here's that second pick, okay? And right there, now when you're running this, this is like a trail route, okay? So there's basically two people running the same route, one behind the other. I think this is Davis, number 84, running the first one. Now, the responsibility of this receiver is to flatten this route out.
Flatten it out.
So the safety can't undercut it. I mean, it's really simple, like simple concept, right? Hey, if you keep drifting towards the safety, the rookie safety who's never played in a game before is just going to break on this. Chris Collinsworth's going to call him a genius.
Yeah,
he's going to make.
He called his coach a genius.
Yeah, he made a great play. He made a great play, but like for every great play, the flip side of it is like, you know, our guy's not doing our Hall of Fame quarterback any favors right here by drifting on your route. You know, he loses 5 yards right there on that whole sequence.
And that's a basic route running, especially when it's a crossing route.
Now, I put this there, man, because you know how much I love the screen game, and you do too. Is there anything better from your perspective than right there?
No,
EJ gets a seal, which you usually have a kick out, but he actually sealed
That's
this guy.
Tough.
I don't know how they figured out how to do this and how Aaron Jones saw it, but he sealed this and gave him the sideline, which is huge.
Beautiful. I was like, man, nice adjustment.
JRJ gets a seal, and now you got Myers running downhill, man. And this is like, you know, this is football porn.
Yeah.
And Aaron Jones is so special when he gets in that kind of situation here. Okay, quick technique thing, guys. Offensive line deal. So first and second step are the most important things in your footwork, obviously, when you're an offensive lineman. You see JRJ gets wide here. This is one. I think this is the sack where Aaron got hurt. And all they're going to they're running a 3-man game here. So they're going to run the tackle. They're going to run the tackle upfield here, and they're going to run the end around. Or, excuse me, tackle, but I'd rather call it tackle in because there's too many guys on the field. But see, John Run Jr., his feet are wide. When your feet are wide, you know, right now I can't all of a sudden get back into my kind of stagger stance and kind of move laterally how I want. I have to open up more. And so you get into this situation, you end up being kind of like you're kind of catching or you're receiving the defensive lineman instead of punching, extending, and being able to kind of manipulate where he goes. And because of that, when you put yourself in the situation, you turn, and now there's no way that Myers is not going to get picked here, right? And the defensive lineman could have picked him even more if he wanted to. They're just running what we just call a mesh game, and the mesh game means that the penetrating defensive lineman is going to try and actually win. Like we either run a pick game where I'm going to try to knock that center off, or we're going to run a mesh game where I'm actually just going to try to win in that gap. And then naturally that pick occurs, and I'm pressuring so that now that guard in this case can't come off of his block in order to get the looper.
Yep, if he do, it's 2 guys free.
Right.
Can't do that.
So I think this is maybe where he gets, or at least it was okay.
Yeah.
You talked about this. Now, Elgin Jenkins, this is box office blocking. This should be on every highlight reel in every high school. Anytime you want
Little
to teach
league,
if you want to teach somebody how to block, you show them this block right here. NFL has to cut this out, man. This is terrible. Inside hand, inside the cylinder. Look at that right there. He is under the armpit, and absolutely the guy's off the ground. That's Hargraves.
Yeah,
dude, that is a baller. That guy's probably playing their best D line right now for the Philadelphia Eagles.
He got caught slipping. He got
absolutely. Look at the extension that he has, man. I mean, this is.
Oh my goodness. I saw that. I said when I was watching the touchdown, I'm watching Aaron Jones makes the cut off DeGuara's block, but then I see. As I look at the cut of Aaron Jones, I see Hargrave's leg go in the air. I said, "Oh my God, he got planted,
bro!" He did like a full flip. Like that is such like to get called on a holding call right there is such a load of garbage. God, that was a great block.
That's teach
tape. That is absolute teach tape.
And I think the referee saw the block was like, I think I need to throw a flag on that. And
yeah,
but I think he thought about it.
But like usually you get the flag thrown, right? Because if I'm running
you pull away
and I flip like this, it's usually because my outside hand is pulling this side, not because my inside hand is pushing that side.
Yeah, I mean, he had that full extension.
That power was insane. So the last play I got here, bro, is Jordan Love comes in, did a lot of good things. This is the touchdown to Christian Watson. You just see they did under center play action. Linebackers suck up a little bit.
A lot.
Lazard. So they're playing single safety high, so you're supposed to funnel inside, right? So the two inside receivers. Lazard does a great job of redirecting here, making his receiver flip his hips. I'm talking about the guy on the left, Lazard on the left here.
Yeah.
Christian Watson uses his speed. They're going to let him free release. That is a huge mistake.
That's a problem.
They got that rookie safety in the back, so he doesn't know what to do because Lazard's going to go high as well. And this is just
textbook right here for that.
This, when you were saying earlier, like with Nixon and Rudy Ford, like why haven't we been doing this all year? Like I know he's been hurt, but man, when you see this and you go, oh, okay, well, let's just run that play a bunch of times. We should be all right,
Yeah, like, exactly.
That kid is that just for that play right there, you go, oh God, we got one of those. Good.
There's some hope. Yes,
yeah, we got one of those. We got a kid who can do that now. That is good to know.
Yeah, and that's what I mentioned was about Watson. He's been having the hammy issues all year, and then obviously then the experience and all the back and forth between Aaron and the young guys and who's doing what, who's not doing this, and who's catching the ball, who's not catching the ball, who's showing up to meetings, who's not showing up to meetings, who's paying attention. All that conversation that Aaron was trying to get players to play. It finally, in the last 2 weeks, somewhere it sinked in for Watson, and obviously now he's healthy. And if you don't bump him off the ball, it's like you're going to create problems for yourself as a defensive coordinator. I'm like, look, number 9 lineup, we're hitting him. First 5 yards, give him a problem, harass him, and then make him earn the round after that.
These defensive backs are well paid, smart, competitive people, and you just like I always just try to imagine the situation because I would go like, hey Mike, if they were like, hey Mike, like let's say I was like year 3 or 4 or something, they're like, hey Mike, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna line up in an offensive formation where Warren Sapp's going to be over you only on 3rd and 8+ every single play, and we're going to remove everybody away and let him get a full head of steam and go any direction he wants. Does that sound like fun? And I'd go, well, no, that sounds pretty awful, actually. Don't please not do that. But then you see some of these defensive coordinators and the calls, and you're like, dude, that guy's he's 6'4" or 5 or whatever. He runs a 4.2. Maybe we should stop him off the line. What do you think?
Right.
Like now you guys will be fine. Just let him run right at you, and then you flip, and then they just go, oh, you just flip your hips and be like, fine.
No.
By the way, they had a shot where Jay Alexander was running. AJ Brown was running around on Jay Alexander, and AJ did a good job of walling him off from not getting a pick.
Yeah, I saw that.
But Jay Alexander, when he flipped his hips back to the inside and ran because they ran a double move.
Yeah,
and then in that one moment, when he flipped his hips, I went, oh, that's why they pay him so much money.
Exactly.
It was just so smooth. Oh,
that's it.
God, dude, what a talent.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, he flipped his hips and didn't lose a step.
It was unbelievable. You appreciate when guys are just phenomenal athletes. That was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, that's what I was like. Oh, he didn't lose no ground. He was right there, foot to foot with AJ, and so with Love's performance. Here's the question from Packers Clan, who's on our comments saying, thanks for writing in here. It says, could we be looking at the future with Jordan Love? He's looking pretty good from a small sample size. I guess the question would be, do you think he showed enough? What did he show us? Like, what conclusions can you draw from what he showed us last night, AG? First thing is confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw him anticipating his throws, which is a good thing, but you got to be careful with it. But then I say the confidence, anticipation of the throw, knowing where his receiver is going to come open and having the ball ready to go then. And just this being you could tell it was a different huddle with him this time because other seasons where he's been in the huddle.
Chiefs game last year. Right.
You could tell he was still like, okay, kind of, young buck, still wet behind the ears. Now he was in there and calling a play. You could see everybody tuning into him. And then, like I said, just his presence, how he came on that field then, it was a different from last year and the years before. So that's what I thought.
I would just, the only other thing I would add to that is I thought his pocket presence was really good last night.
Very much.
Just awareness of the rush. And you can see he demonstrated his athleticism, I think, and his ability to not only sling the ball around, but move around on the throw the ball on the move, avoid the rush. He can go lateral and throw vertical. I thought the play that he almost had a Cobb in the end zone at the end of the game. He could have let him a little bit more, but when you start thinking I'm running to the right, I'm throwing back a little bit to my left, throwing inside, like that's a very, very difficult pass. He executed it pretty well. I know it didn't turn out, but those are the kind of things that you want to see. I think if you're Goody or Matt LaFleur, as far as, all right, what do we actually have here in the event that Aaron's out for this year, in the event that Aaron's out in 2 years from now and he's retiring, et cetera, et cetera. Right. Here's another one from Just Truth. Thank you for writing in. A defense that has maybe 2-3 players that know how to tackle, and then there's a little bit of negativity. But I'll just ask this question: like, at what point, given what we saw last night, given the 363 yards on the ground and all of it, like,
right?
When is it like? I guess when is enough with this defense?
This is it.
Yeah,
this for me. This is it.
Yeah, like Barry. To me, I don't know anybody on their defensive staff. Joe Barry might be the greatest guy in the world, but Eagles broke a lot of records last night. And when you turn on the tape and you show what your first-round draft pick rookie is giving up in terms of yardage, and I know that's not all him, but my point is we've been talking about that for months.
Yes.
And like you said, we're just slightly above casual here. As far like we're not getting paid any money by the Green Bay Packers to break down what is ailing them. So the fact that they're not coming any stronger than that is really surprising. And they have a lot of talent, and it doesn't seem like they're getting the most out of all these pieces they could be put in place.
Right. You have the quarterback over 150. You have the running back over 140. And you have a Gainwell, a young guy. He has over a 3-yard average and a touchdown. And you got the running back with 2 touchdowns. And he had big runs during those carries. So as a defense, that's like we're gonna make some changes here. I'm gonna watch film. I'm gonna see who wants to tackle.
I was gonna ask you
who wants to tackle.
I don't know the answer to this question.
Yeah.
How much time do you think they spend on tackling? Because their tacklings, they've been awful. And I know they can't be in like I coach tackling.
Me too.
And there's very, very, very effective ways to get your footwork right, to get your body position right without pads.
Yep.
To learn how to decelerate, to accelerate, or to control all
so many drills
without pads in order to be more effective. I don't understand how we can continue to miss so many tackles.
No, it'd be a thing that it's literally every day. It's literally every day. I with my linebackers and defensive players I've coached over the last few years of high school coaching, that's the first thing we do. We work on our deceleration, form tackling, and how we're wrapping up a guy, and then even having pick an angle. So like for example, when we watched that film on Quay and how he was coming to balance and how he's out of position already from the jump, is because then he's not leveraging Hurts's body. So Hurts, he's coming to you. You got to be on the inside out of him. You can't be on the outside in of him. You had to be looking where that number 1 is at. You're looking to the little bit to your left, not to the right. And you're looking at that number. You're not looking at his head and his legs. His head is going to make you, lose the tackle. Just focus on the inside part of that number 1 on that jersey. Come inside out on the tackle, and then boom, you're in position every time.
We always just talk about tracking the near hip.
That's it. And that's practice every day for defensive players.
You have a chance to be successful.
Yep, 100%. Every day.
All right, let's go to Get Off My Lawn.
Woo! There's some good stuff this weekend.
Yeah, well, and to be led with the guy that we love to lead with, Russell Wilson.
Oh,
scores 1 offensive touchdown. The play of the Broncos is offensive.
Yeah, it's
bad. And Mike Purcell comes over, who's been balling, been playing well, defensive tackle.
Yep.
And rips into him. And of course, it's not a big deal. Just competitive guys. You got to do this, got to do that. Do you think? Let me just ask you this. Do you think that? And I know you love this guy. That's why I love bringing it up. that if he was just playing bad, right? In other words, if they were just playing bad, do you think he would get that kind of treatment from a teammate, or do you think that this is actually much more about his middle of the field, walk around with 20 cameras, all the stuff that he does to bring attention to himself, make it about him and not make it about the team?
Yeah, I think it's that. It's the second part, because as a player, we know what chaps are high. We just want players to be who they are on the football field. What you do off the field, for most of us, and we're kind of two of those players, that's oblivious to us. We like be in the weight room, be in the meetings, and show up on the practice field and the game field. You do that, I don't care. As long as whatever you do off the field does not affect what goes on the field, then we're okay. But once we start seeing problems, this is a problem, I'm gonna get in your face like, bro, we need you here. This is not Instagram. It's not TikTok. We need football. We don't need PR right now.
I was trying to tell my kid, I go, he was kind of dogging it, and my kid talks way too much trash, like way too much. And I was like, hey, man, you can't talk trash. And he goes, well, why not? I go, you're not working hard enough.
No.
It's like, I go, and he kind of looked at me like I'm hurting his feelings. I go, I'm telling you the truth. Like, unless you're willing to put in the time, you can't, like, you have no ground to stand. People think you're a joke. And that's kind of what happens with a lot of these guys. This happens a lot when you get paid a lot too. You see a lot of guys that get paid a lot, and it kind of goes to it's not that it goes to your head, but truthfully, it's like, okay, well, what do you do now that you have no worries in your life,
right?
Financially, like you always playing because you love it, and then all of a sudden they start paying you, and then now you've made this, like, I mean, he's made multi-generational changing money.
Correct.
And so you put yourself in this different category, and now the people you rub elbows with are different. You're sitting in Serena's box at her last game. You know what I mean? Like, things change, and if you're not careful, and this is not a thing on him. Yeah, but you get lost, and you'll forget that the whole reason that anybody cares about what you're saying is because you're really good at throwing a football, and you could be so much more than that. That's not what I'm saying. But never forget how you got there. Never forget because that's all that really, if you want to expand on that afterwards, or even in the middle of it, never forget why you have a voice in the first place. I think that's a problem that, a lot of us have run into.
Yeah. You got to stay grounded pretty much, and stay focused on exactly what's priority number one, which right now is not
Speaking of staying grounded, OBJ gets kicked off the airplane in Miami.
That's a great segue. I knew that was coming.
Yeah, that was fantastic. I listen, there's a lot going on here, because I think his lawyer, first of all, the fact that he had to have a lawyer come out and say something is a little bit weird, but his lawyer came out and basically said, like, he was willing to put a seatbelt on, but the flight attendant was just trying to prove that he could get Odell Beckham Jr. kicked off of the airplane. I don't know, right?
Like, I don't know either.
Yeah, but this you're just going like, dude, you're trying to get on a team right now. Like, did you really need this?
Yes.
There was probably a way to handle this, and it did not involve you getting everybody else off the flight delayed and you getting escorted off a flight. Like, had to have been a different way to deal with this.
Exactly. This is the one thing you did not want that weekend to go. The week to go. Okay, I'm traveling to visit teams that want me for a playoff push to potentially win a Super Bowl. Things on my list I should not do. Don't get kicked off the play because of what if I'm inebriated with it, whatever. Yeah. That's like the number one. Don't get in trouble. Just don't do this. Please and thank you to everybody. Make sure I'm early to my flight. I get off the flight, then I'm nice and ready to go for whoever I'm meeting. That's the mindset. It's like when I heard this, I was like, come on, OBJ. I'm thinking he's rehabbed, he's ready to play, and he's business. He's professional. And this is like, oh, man.
And again, like I don't think any there's no arrests or anything. I mean, there's no legal trouble or
but
anything.
It doesn't look good. It just doesn't.
No, it just doesn't. It just doesn't look good. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 2 hires. One of them, your alma mater. Interesting. Yep. Matt Rule, former Panthers coach.
And Baylor. He was at Baylor before the Panthers.
Temple. Yep, Temple. Turn around Temple.
Baylor.
Baylor had a huge problem with a couple off the field issues, and
100%.
He came in. Okay, he goes to the Panthers, and I mean I know the Panthers, and not a good. It was just never was a good look from day one. It wasn't a good.
Right.
The Panthers owed him something around $40 million. Okay, so Nebraska hires him, and I think that alleviates the Panthers from having to pay a lot of that money. Because now they're paying the Nebraska's giving it like an 8-year deal for like $72 million. So it's like 9
I saw 8 years. I didn't know the amount.
Yeah, eight years, $9 million a year. Okay. And which is only like $1 million less than like Nick Saban earns. And so Nebraska's going all in, which is I think is a good idea. I think Matt Rule is probably I know he's got to be a better college coach than he was a pro coach because he's done well in the college ranks and did terrible in the pros. That's what I was thinking. The same thing. Yeah. What was funny about this is last week I'm sitting watching like NFL Countdown. I can't remember what I'm watching, but he's on the show, and you're like, dude, he's doing the tour. Like, I wonder what job he's up for. So he's on the show and he's talking about, what could you have done better? He's like, I just need to get back to being Matt, Coach Rule, and talking to my players and being this guy. And you're just like, dude, it's like when Urban Meyer did his like roadshow BS, and I'm just like, dude. I guess this is what I keep going back to, right? Yeah. And I think it's different because it's NFL to college. I think that makes more sense. But we're about to get in this hiring season, and there's like 4 jobs that are already up in the National Football League that either officially or unofficially with coaches getting fired and whatnot.
With Denver and everything.
And I just wonder if I guess why there's so many good coaches at the high school level, the college level. Jeff Saturday is going out for a second win. He could be 2-1 as no coaching experience, but could a leader of men could be 2-1 after tonight. Why do you think we have to recycle so many of these coaches? And Matt Rule is probably a bad one because I understand going back to this. Like Nick Saban wasn't a great pro coach, right? Like I get it. Steve Spurrier wasn't a great pro coach, but the guys that are get recycled, and this happens. I mean, this happens in college. This happens in the pros, and so maybe it's 2 different tiers. But I always think it's odd. I'm always like, there's got to be another coach out there. You just got to
what I believe is between the organization. So whatever the school or the team, NFL team, they only get a list of certain candidates, and it's the candidates that recently last year or 2 years ago were coaching, and those hiring folks hasn't really done the research on who else may be a candidate.
Are you saying that's because like they're getting that list from the list you're talking about is from like Korn Ferry, like a
correct a hiring firm,
or in like the NFL's case, like the NFL has, so people don't know, the NFL has like a group of like ex-GMs, like basically like an inner circle of
a committee
that says like, oh, this person should be a coach, this person should be a candidate. 100%. And it's like it's amazing because if you just think about it from this perspective, like if you own a business and you're going to have a hire, of course you're going to try to go around and say, well, this person in this industry is doing a really nice job, but you would think that you would want all your internal research because nobody else knows what you want.
Exactly.
And it's bizarre to me that they've set up the committee and they just like, oh, we're gonna rubber stamp you. It's like you've done nothing except understand that like Ben Johnson's the OC for the Lions.
Okay.
I know Ben. Ben is a great guy. He may very well make a great head coach. But his name's been around because they're scoring a ton of points.
Yeah.
I would be shocked because his name was not anywhere on the list last year.
Mm-hmm.
No, okay. He's all over the place now. I would be shocked if one person on that committee has sat down with him for an interview. You see what I'm saying? Not that he's not deserving, But I'm just saying the process that they're going through is just like they might as well be on PFF going like, well, let's see whose defense is good right now.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and so between both hires, Matt and Luke Fickell going to Wisconsin, it's the same thing. It's like if you really do your research for what you want as a school. And not saying that I know Trev Alberts at Nebraska, he might be done his research because he's had since week 5 of college football, week 3 of college football, since they fired Scott to really look. So he's had 2 months of looking. So I believe that's how he settled on Matt Rhule here. But with Wisconsin too, they had less time, maybe 2-3 weeks, since the firing of Paul Chryst there. So hopefully I say this where the hiring in minds have picked out the right candidates to know what they want to do with this program and lead into the future, because it's not just, get a guy in there, but make sure you got the culture, they understand all that stuff on top of just being a football person and understanding what they have to build out there. Matt Rhule does have the background of building out programs and getting them back on track. So that's one thing, but also is just, for the other candidates out there, there's so many sometimes it goes through the waste, kind of the wasteways, through this way of picking process sometimes. So
I'm trying to see what Luke Fickell's numbers are not being disclosed. He's making $5 million on a contract from Cincinnati on a contract extension, so it's got to be more than that. But
got it.
Yeah, man. I tell you what, I think personally it would be harder to be a college coach because than a pro coach now, which I know sounds ridiculous. Maybe not every college,
right?
But you look at a big school now, the amount of players you have, more players, you have all this this transfer portal thing is NIL. It seems like a
transfer portal is interesting. I still don't understand it.
Well, it's interesting in the sense that I don't want anything to do with it. That's
right. That's what I'm saying. It's like it's scary. You're like,
it just it seems. It seems like it's bastardized. It's bastardized NCAA football is what it seems like to me, because now all of a sudden you can go like USC is a good example, right? USC hires the guy from Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. He brings in
some of his players.
Lincoln Riley.
Yep.
He brings his quarterback
from Oklahoma.
He grabs the Oregon running back and a handful of other guys, and all of a sudden they're like top 5 in the country, and you're going,
man.
Well, but you go, well, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then you go, but that's not building a pro, because you and I think about like, okay, why are we going to college? Now, you and I wanted to be pro guys.
Yeah.
Why are we going to college? Oh, to develop. And now it's gone from develop. No, we'll let somebody else develop you, and then we'll pick you up after your second year. You can come over here and try to win championships for 2 years. That's really what they're doing. Now, if you're a top guy, because they're not even giving out college scholarships to freshmen anymore, unless you're like a 5-star at these big schools. Like a 3-star athlete, dude, a 3-star athlete's not getting a college scholarship anymore, because they're going to go, we're going to use that in the transfer portal. We'll pick up the backup linebacker from Alabama who wants to start. We'll bring him over to here, Arizona State or whatever. He's going to be a hero. But that's one of your college scholarships. So, for me, you love that the kid has it. Like every one of us has been in a situation where we want to get out.
Yeah.
Every one of us has been in a situation where like, dude, this coach is not for me. I made a mistake. Or like there's somebody in front of me, he's blocking my ability to play. Like I'm not going to develop. He's there, And sometimes there's some guys who just need a different and change of environment, right? Mm. But this is like, I don't like the way they're talking to me. Oh, well, I'm not getting enough money on NIL. Oh, like it sucks. It sucks. I think it'd be really tough to sit in somebody's living room right now and not just feel like a complete, used car salesman.
Yeah, you got to put a nice little dialogue together differently these days. It was simple back in when we were getting recruited. So definitely. So get off my lawn with all that.
Get off my lawn. I think that's all we got today, man.
And that's all we got. But you didn't ask the question, but yeah, I think with what's his name? Saturday.
Yeah.
It's potentially 2-0.
The game tonight. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah.
No coaching, no head coaching experience over years. So there is a potential. There's probably What's the line? I know you're looking at it there.
Yeah, I'm about to. It's we got Steelers, Colts, and the line was 2.5. Colts.
Oh, it's close. It's
2.5, but it's Colts at home. That Pickett kid was playing good last week.
For Steelers,
listen,
right?
I don't think right now, given the fact that Green Bay is 4-8 and the Panthers aren't going to go to the playoffs, the Seahawks might.
You still got some fight.
Yeah, you kind of follow the teams you're playing. Given that, I don't think I could be any happier this year than if Jeff Saturday got into like the second round of the playoffs.
Right.
I don't think anything would make me happier because it kind of goes, everything that you and I have said for the last 2 years on this show would just kind of go, everyone would be like, oh, well, it's exactly what we've been talking about. It's not about the X's and O's. You can find people to teach that. It's about finding somebody who is completely invested in you becoming the best version of yourself, believing that, being able to bring together that locker room. That's what leadership is. That's what you need to have in a head coach.
Yep.
There are some guys that can do both. Like I keep going back to Mike McDaniel. Dude, I just saw this thing. He put together like a 700 clip tape for Tua because Tua didn't have any confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So he put together a 700 clip tape to watch it, and then he showed it to like all the owner management and everything. Like, this is my guy, dude. I know you can do this. And I watched that game yesterday. They took him out at halftime because he was already up 30-0, 30-7.
Right. They won. It was a beatdown. So. But no, and I agree with that. I mean, the guy that I experienced as a 3-year college football player, Tom Osborne, he had both. He had the leadership and he had the X's and O's. And he could get players to play off of, for one, not swearing, but then giving you the confidence, like you mentioned with McDaniels, to say, hey, I recruited you. You worked out in the weight room. You should be able to do this, this, and this because you hit these marks. In the weight room, you hit these marks with us as coaches. We trust you. We believe in you as a player. And then you see guys on there that we knew coming in, from high school. We saw film. It's like, okay, we don't know how this guy's going to plan out. And they came All-American, first-round draft pick, whatever, So when you have that combination in a special person as a head coach, the big things can happen for players. They can have that support system behind them and able to go out big and do big things. So, agree with you on that standpoint.
Yes, sir.
All right. We're at the end of the show. So, Mike, let everybody know where they can find you on social, man. Good job today.
Yeah, we got, let's see, Mike Wall 68 on Twitter, Process to Perform on Instagram.
All right. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at AmonGreen30, all one word. And then also my gaming podcast, Amon Green's Gamers Loud, is here on YouTube as well, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. So I hope everyone have a great rest of your week. I hope you recovered from the holiday weekend, and we'll see y'all next week.
Out. Peace.